It was a lovely Monday morning, and we were sitting at the kitchen table after finishing breakfast. I was happily sipping my coffee and reading the paper when my wife said, "Chad, could you put the paper down for a minute? I need to talk to you." I put the paper down and she said, "I'm leaving you. I want a divorce." "Is that all?" I asked, picking the paper back up and flipping to the sports section. It was a lovely Monday morning, and we were sitting at the kitchen table after finishing breakfast. I was enjoying my coffee and reading the paper when my wife said, "Chad, could you put the paper down? I need to talk to you." I put the paper down and she continued, "I'm leaving you. I want a divorce." "Is that all?" I asked, picking the paper back up and flipping to the sports section. "I'm serious, Chad," she insisted. I tried to ignore her, but that only made her more upset. "Oh, Chad, please put down the newspaper and talk to me about this," she said, her voice cracking with emotion. "I have nothing to say except goodbye. It's not like we're losing much. You haven't exactly been the best wife lately, so I'll let you go." I put the newspaper down, stood up, and walked to the home office. I grabbed a notebook and pinned it to my desk, pulled an envelope from a drawer, and went back to the kitchen table. I wrote on the top sheet of the notebook, "Tyrone, thank you and thank God. She is leaving me." As I was about to put the note in the envelope, I had an idea.
This is your story channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, please join us to stay updated with more real stories happening around you.
I had an idea. I took out one of the lottery tickets I had bought the night before and added it to the envelope. Then I wrote, "If you get lucky and win, maybe it'll be enough to keep the cheater satisfied so she won't cheat again. Good luck, kid. You're gonna need it, kid." I signed it, "A very grateful Chad." I folded the sheet, placed it in the envelope, sealed it, addressed it, and handed it to Kathy. "When you see him, please give this to him." She took it and her face showed shock. "You think I'm clueless, but you're wrong," I replied, taking back the envelope. "Maybe I should mail it myself. I'm a little worried that you might open it, read it, and then throw it away. Now, why don't you go pack your things and get out of my life? And since you're leaving, you need to be out of the house as soon as possible. I'm not planning on moving anytime soon. I'm not moving out just so you can bring your lover in." I got up, poured myself a coffee, filled up my travel mug, and headed to work. On the way, I stopped by the bank, closed our savings and checking accounts, and emptied our safe deposit box. Then I went to a bank closer to work and opened new accounts in my name only. Next, I called to cancel all our joint credit cards and arranged for new cards to be issued in my name only. After that, I focused on my day-to-day tasks. I stayed late after work, had dinner and drinks with my executive assistant, and mentioned that I was back on the market if her sister was still interested. Maria laughed and said, "To hell with my sister. If you're single again, I want to be first in line." Maria started with me as a secretary 10 years ago, and I had promoted her to my assistant 4 years ago, and then to my executive assistant 2 years ago. I remember one time, I threw a backyard barbecue on a Sunday, and I invited Maria, but she had to decline because her sister was visiting from out of town. So I suggested she bring her sister along. Tara was a very attractive blonde. On Monday, Maria told me with a laugh that Tara had a crush on me. I laughed and said, "Please don't tell Kathy. She can be, and sometimes is, insanely jealous." Now Maria was saying she was interested in me, and I had never realized she could feel that way. I replied, teasing her. "Then Tara moved to second place and you could take first?" "I'm not joking, boss. I'm dead serious. I'm eager to give it a try." "Maria, I understand that this might not be what you expected, but I'm excited to share my proposal." "What exactly?" "She wants a divorce, so I'm leaving it to her and her lover. I'm not sure what their schedule looks like, but I'm excited to see what happens." Her lover. She slept with the guy about a year and a half ago, and I think she finally decided that a few days a week with him isn't enough. So she's going full-time. "How long have you known?" "A year and a half. I knew almost from the day it started." "How did that come about?" "A friend of mine saw her going into a motel room with a man and called me. I hired a private detective to follow her for a week, and he gave me all the info I needed. It's been a year and a half now." "I'm sorry, but I'm a little confused. You were aware of the situation for half a year, and yet you didn't do anything about it until a year and a half later? I'm sorry, but what could I do? I could have gotten angry and turned my life upside down, but I chose not to. In this state, divorce is no fault. Everything would have to be split in half, and I'd have to sell the house and split the proceeds with her. I'd have to give up so many things. The pool, the hot tub, my woodworking shop, and the 3-car garage. And I'd have to move into an apartment. No thanks. I decided to let bygones be bygones, and let her cook for me, do my laundry, and keep the house clean. I mean, how could you stay with her knowing she was cheating on you? You'd be surprised at how quickly love can turn to hate, and then hate turns into indifference. I'm shocked that a healthy guy like you went a year and a half without sex. Who says anything about going without sex? As long as Kathy was offering, I was taking. The frequency did decrease somewhat, though. I made sure to abstain on days I knew she was with him. Other than that, the only change was that I stopped making love and just had sex. I'm curious, though, do you have any idea why she did it? I'm really not sure, but I'm guessing he wasn't the first. Do you think she had other lovers? I can't know for sure, but what I do know is that in the 10 years we've been married, she fell into a certain mood 4 times, as far as I can remember. For a while, she acted the way she has for the last year and a half since she got involved with this guy. I'm not sure, but I think the other times were for the same reason. If she hadn't been seen, and I hadn't been told, I would have thought her mood was just normal for her. I might be wrong, but that's how I see it. I'm absolutely certain about this affair. That's all I need to know to understand she's unfaithful. What are you going to do now? Wait. To wait for what, exactly? To see what she plans to do. Now she's on her own. I've taken care of the bank accounts, credit cards, and even asked her to leave the house. She wanted a divorce, so I decided to leave it up to her. She doesn't earn enough to support herself or pay a lawyer, so she'll have to get money for a lawyer from her lover, and I don't know if he'll give it to her. I'm sure they discussed this before she came to me with it, but I have no way of knowing. If you're really interested in me, you'll be involved with a married man who has no idea how long it'll take before he gets divorced. You might be thinking about this the wrong way, Chad. How so? If she files for divorce, she'll be in control. You'll be served, and that could be tough. You don't know what she might do. They might order you to leave the house and give it to her while the court hearings are pending. What if she files and claims mental and physical cruelty and gets a restraining order that keeps you away from her in the house? You need to set the pace, boss. You need to be in the driver's seat. You can make her react instead of the other way around. Besides, this will really help me out. Helping you? How? If you wait and let her file, what if she doesn't? What if her lover doesn't give her the money for it? That could put us in a position of adultery, and she could use that against you in the future. You say she cheated, and she says, so what? You did too. If you file, you're essentially saying the marriage is over, and what you do from that point on is not her business. Technically, you're still married until the divorce is final, and being with me would still be considered adultery. But don't worry, no court is going to hold that against you. If you start dating me after filing for divorce from Kathy, it seems I need to stay away from you until either you or she takes legal action. If we wait for her, it could take years or maybe just a week, but it would be under her control. If you decide to file, you could meet with a lawyer early tomorrow and serve Kathy by Thursday. That would give me the weekend to work on winning you over. Winning me over? I'm dead serious, boss. What's the point of being first in line if I don't take advantage of it? She was right, and I knew it. So, I pulled out my cell phone and speed-dialed Alex. We'd been friends since 3rd grade, and he was a lawyer who practiced family law, which is what they call divorce law. When he answered, I asked if he could help me out, and I explained my situation. He said he'd take care of it as soon as he got to his office in the morning, but I knew that wasn't true. He said he'd swing by at lunchtime so I could sign the papers, and then we could go out for lunch. Then, just to be a bit playful, I suggested that we get a restraining order. I told him Kathy said that if I caused her any trouble for leaving me, her lover, Tyrone, would deal with me. Alex laughed and said he knew it was silly, but he would still do it. I told him that I knew there would be a hearing on this order within 10 days, and that I could get it and serve it. But there has to be a hearing before the judge will order it to stay in effect. I'm ready for that, and I'm prepared. But right now, the main thing is to get her out of the house and keep her out for a while. We don't have kids, so she doesn't really have a good reason to use the house while the divorce is ongoing. I'm sticking to the principle of possession is 9/10 of the law. I don't think it's fair for a judge to order me out and let her in. That's what I'm aiming for. I did mention to her that it would be best for her to leave when we talked this morning, but I'm not sure what I'll find when I get home. She might be gone or she might still be there. Since I can't be sure where she'll be, I plan to serve her at work. Do you think there's a chance you two could come to some agreement? Unfortunately, there is no way for that to happen. I'll see you tomorrow. I hung up, looked across the table at Maria, and asked, "What do you have planned for me this weekend?" She laid out her ideas, and they sounded pretty good to me. When I got home, Kathy was sitting at the kitchen table going through some papers. "Why are you still here?" I asked, walking to the fridge and grabbing a beer. "This is my house, too. I'll stay here until I can make other arrangements. If you're not enjoying my company, you're more than welcome to move out. Not in your damn life. Let's sit down and talk about what we're going to do. There's nothing to discuss. I've got this, and I'm not worried about what you're planning. There are some things we need to work out, Chad." "No, Kathy. There are no such questions. It's simple. You said you want a divorce, so go get it. You'll need to hire a lawyer, file the papers, and cover all the court costs. I'll be fighting for every little thing. We live in a no-fault state where everything is split 50-50, so we'll have to make decisions about who gets what. I'll take my time with this so your attorney fees can keep building up. They're not free after all. You want the coffee table? Well, guess what? I want it too. You want the couch? I'm sorry, Kathy. It holds a lot of sentimental value for me, and I really, really want it. I'm sorry, but I don't understand why you're suddenly so interested in this. I thought you weren't too concerned about any of this before. You didn't seem to be affected when I told you I wanted a divorce. All you did was tell me to pack my things and get out. That was before I had time to think about it. I looked into her eyes and took a risk. I let you off the hook the first 3 times because you didn't want a divorce. I loved you enough to keep quiet and stay with you because you always came back to me." She turned away when I mentioned the first 3 times, which, as far as I could tell, confirmed my suspicions. "I'm not sure why I stayed with you. I didn't end up filing for divorce. I thought maybe I did something that really upset you, and you felt you had to do this to get back at me. Eventually, you'd end your affairs, and I foolishly thought it was because you realized you loved me and came back." I looked down at the floor and noticed the mess on my shoes. I thought our relationship with Tyrone was just like the ones before, but now I see I was wrong. I've come to understand that you're a cheater. If you hadn't left me for Tyrone and ended things with him, I'm sure you'd be with someone else in 6 months or a year. I realized that. I realized I needed some sort of revenge. I wanted to do things differently, to express my feelings in a way that would be more meaningful to me. But I realized that wouldn't be the best choice. So, I decided the best way to avoid that was to make this divorce difficult and expensive for you. You're absolutely right. This is your home too, and if you've decided to stay, I'll respect that. But I have to be honest. I don't have to like it and I don't have to talk to you. If you could move your things to one of the spare bedrooms and stay away from me, that would be great. I finished my beer and went upstairs to what used to be our bedroom to get ready for bed. I felt like I had achieved what I set out to do. I gave her something to think about. She needed to discuss everything with Tyrone and make decisions, which would take time. That would give Alex the chance to support Kathy and get a restraining order in place. I could be wrong, though. Maybe Kathy had already met with a lawyer and the papers were on their way to me. But I'm pretty sure I took the rest of the money when I canceled the credit cards. The money I withdrew from the bank was about what I expected. If she had seen a lawyer, she probably would have used our money to pay him. Of course, Tyrone could have covered the bill. All I could do was wait and hope Alex took the first step. I got up and left the house before Kathy came out of her bedroom. I went to a bed and breakfast cafe for breakfast, and while sipping my coffee, I made a list of people to call once Kathy was served. I wasn't going to let her make me the bad guy. I was determined to let everyone know about the divorce and explain the reasons behind it. At work, Maria told me she was really looking forward to the weekend, and I found myself hoping it would happen. I met with Alex for lunch and signed the papers. He said he would head to the county building after lunch to file the petition. Do you still want her served at work? Absolutely. I'm thinking around 10 tomorrow. Please give me a ring as soon as it happens. I'm gonna have the locks changed before she can come back home. I went back to work and arranged for the next day off. Before leaving the office, I called a locksmith and scheduled a quick service for the following day. Cost a bit more, but I felt it was worth it. When I got home, Kathy's car was in the driveway, but she must have decided to stay in her room and not get in my way because I didn't see her. I left the house before she came downstairs and went to a bed and breakfast cafe for breakfast. Nina asked me where Kathy was. I always saw you two together, so it was a bit surprising to see you 2 days in a row without her. I'm worried we won't see each other as often anymore. We're taking a break from each other. I see, she said, taking my order. When she put the bill on the table, she added, my phone number is on the back. Not the restaurant's number, mine. I was speechless as Nina walked away. In just 2 days, 2 women had shown interest. I wondered why I wasn't enough for the woman I married. I guess I'd never know because I'd never ask. I drank my coffee and read the morning paper, waiting for the time when Kathy usually left for work. Then I went home and started packing Kathy's things, moving them to the garage. At 10:15, Alex called to let me know the papers had been served. I called the locksmith and he was at work within 20 minutes. It wasn't even an hour later when Kathy's car sped up the driveway. She couldn't miss the wide-open garage door and the big cardboard sign that said, Kathy, all your things are here in the garage. She stood there staring at the sign for a minute, then tried to enter the house. But, alas, her keys didn't work. She rang the doorbell, but I didn't answer, and eventually, she left. I looked into the garage and saw that she had taken a couple of bags of her things. Just 2 minutes after she drove off, my cell phone rang, and it was Kathy. Hey, you really put me in a tough spot. I mean, you could have at least waited until I was alone, you know? It's better than letting you humiliate me in front of my colleagues. What's this restraining order business? I was worried you'd ask Tyrone to come and settle things for being rude to you. That's why. You know it. I'll go into the house to get some things. I'll find all your things in the garage. Kathy. I didn't change the garage door code, so your opener will work. If you need something that isn't there, just let me know. I'll be happy to move it to the garage for you. Chad, I'm worried about you. You're making this much harder than it needs to be. I'm sorry, Kathy. I understand I'm causing you some trouble, but I need to do something for my own mental health. I'm grateful you're understanding, even if I did lose my temper. Goodbye. After saying goodbye to Kathy, I sat down with the phone and started calling everyone on my list. Most were shocked to hear that Kathy had cheated on me, but 2 weren't surprised. One said, finally caught her, huh? The other said, I always thought you had an open marriage. She was always out with some guy, and you never mentioned it. I figured I could cross those 2 off my friends list. Kathy's parents were the most affected by the news, and they tried to tell me I must be mistaken. I really liked them, and they treated me like the son they never had, but I wasn't going to let Kathy tell them her version and make it seem like it was all my fault. I didn't want them to think badly of me. After dealing with the calls, I went through the house one more time to gather Kathy's things, then made myself lunch. I had just finished eating when the guys from Aries Security arrived. They didn't seem to trust me, and they were worried that Kathy might try to break the restraining order and get into the house. I decided to install a security system, complete with cameras, after Kathy's actions. On Thursday at work, I let Maria know that we were all set to head out for the weekend. She smiled, clearly excited. She said that tomorrow night, dinner and dancing would be the start of things, and she returned my grin. When I got home, Kathy did exactly what I expected. She took some of her things and then broke into the house through the connecting door from the garage. The kitchen was a bit of a mess, but that's totally understandable after a fun night out. Plates and glasses were smashed all over the floor, and in the living room, several lamps were broken. But what really made me smile was the sight of her pulling all my clothes out of the closet, piling them on the floor, and then peeing on them. I recorded it all, and it showed that she violated the restraining order and was acting maliciously and destructively. This was evidence I could use at the restraining order hearing. I called Alex and he contacted the police. They arrived, took a report and snapped some photos. The next day, Kathy was arrested at work and taken to jail. They took her fingerprints, took her picture, and brought her before a judge, charging her with violating the restraining order and willful destruction of private property. Surprisingly, the judge set a hearing date and released Kathy on her own recognizance. Despite the chaos, my date with Maria was fun, and we scheduled a second date for Saturday. That date went really well, too, and on Sunday we enjoyed a lovely picnic together. On Monday, there was a hearing for the restraining order. When the judge saw the security camera footage, he made the restraining order permanent, ordered me to replace all the destroyed items, pay for the dry cleaning of my clothes, and cover the cost of cleaning the bedroom, and gave her 10 days to comply or face jail time for contempt of court. I decided to go the extra mile and hired the most expensive cleaning company I could find to help out. I was disappointed when I found out that Catherine had the money to do everything the judge ordered. I really wanted to see Kathy go to jail for contempt of court, but that didn't happen. The next 2 weeks went by, and Maria and I met often, but nothing more happened beyond a few kisses, sometimes quite intense, because neither of us felt comfortable since I was still a married man. But we were getting to a point where things were getting serious. We didn't put up a fight during the divorce, and it was finalized in 6 months. It was a standard no-fault divorce with everything split equally. I refinanced the house and bought out Kathy's share. I had been saving money in a separate account for an unexpected round, the world trip to celebrate our anniversary. I didn't tell her about it, though, because she wouldn't have understood. I also didn't mention the last 2 certificates of deposit I had put in the safe, which I bought with my last 2 bonus checks. I had one more small victory. Kathy was awarded alimony for 2 years, or until she remarried, but it was set at only $100 a week instead of the $500 she had tried to get. I was surprised by this, and Alex said it was because we were lucky with the judges assigned to our cases. The judge overseeing the restraining order hearing and the divorce was a cousin of the judge who presided over the divorce. Apparently, they had discussed their cases, and they had also dealt with cheating wives in the past. Both judges felt strongly that an innocent husband shouldn't be punished for his wife's infidelity. While they stuck to the letter of the law, they didn't go above and beyond what was necessary. It's clear that Kathy and Tyrone's relationship was rocky. 7 months after the divorce was finalized, she was living with her parents. 8 months later, I was at a bar in the Hilton, enjoying a beer and a steak sandwich for lunch. That's when someone took the stool next to me and asked, "Can I buy you a beer?" I turned to see my ex-wife's former lover. I was curious and invited him to continue. He signaled to Agnes and ordered us both a beer. After she brought the beers, he took a sip and set his glass down, staring at it for a few moments as he began peeling the label off the bottle. A small pile of label bits formed in front of him before he spoke. I didn't mean to complicate things for you," he said, still not looking up. I told him that I had no idea she was married because she wasn't wearing any wedding rings the night I met her. She definitely wasn't acting like a married woman. She was at Bud's bar with a group of girls she worked with, and when I asked her to dance, she agreed. I got her a drink, and she invited me to sit with her and the other girls. We danced 3 more times, and when I asked her out, she said yes. I quickly fell in love with her, and within a month we were having sex whenever we could meet up. At first, we had to use motels because I was living with 2 roommates, and one of them was always around. We couldn't even go to her place because she said she lived with her disabled mother, which made it tricky for us to meet up regularly. She said she could only go out when someone else was available to take care of her mother. Eventually, I got my own apartment so we could finally stop relying on motels. Even though we didn't meet often, I was head over heels for her and was planning to propose. I wanted to buy a house big enough for the 2 of us and her mother. But just before I could ask her to marry me, a guy I knew asked me why I was dating a cheater. I was about to confront him when he spilled that Kathy was married and had cheated on you with his brother 2 years ago. When her husband found out, he broke things off with her. At first, I found it hard to believe, but then I got your letter. I waited a week to confront her, and she burst into tears. She said she didn't love you. She said you were an abusive drunk who beat her and emotionally abused her. She said she hated you, but she was afraid to leave because you supposedly threatened to track her down and kill her and anyone she was with. I did some digging, and I realized she was lying. That made me not want to marry her. Still, she was good in bed, and since you'd kicked her out, I let her move in with me, but only as long as she was willing to sleep with me. Everything was going smoothly until the divorce was finalized, and then she started talking about marriage, which is when I decided to end it. My parents had separated due to my mom's infidelity. He got custody of me, and she later remarried but was caught cheating on her second husband. She married a third time and sadly cheated again. I've always believed the saying, once a cheater, always a cheater. So I told Kathy that as long as she was okay with just being friends with benefits, we were good, but nothing more. About 3 weeks later, I came home from work to find she was gone. He took another sip of his beer and said there were rumors that I had known all along about our affair. He asked why I didn't just divorce her. I just gave him a little shrug and said, "You said it yourself. She was damn good in bed." I decided to let things be, enjoying the sex and the fact that there was someone to cook, clean the house, and do the laundry. I probably would have stuck with that arrangement if she hadn't mentioned leaving and wanting a divorce. He took another sip of his beer and said, "I never thought I'd say this, especially to you, but I miss having her in my bed." He finished his beer, stood up, took something out of his pocket, placed it on the counter, and pushed it toward me. "What is this? The lottery ticket you gave me?" I asked, surprised. "It's a winner," he replied, a warm smile spreading across his face. "This is your half." He handed me a big check, and I realized I'd been waiting to give it to you so you wouldn't have to split it with her in the divorce. "I hope we can catch up soon." And just like that, he left. When I returned to the office, my assistant, Jan, looked at me and said, "You look like the cat that just ate the canary. Was lunch that good?" I smiled. Lunch was impressive. "Oh right," Jan said. "Remembering, Maria no longer works for you." "Huh? Not in the office. She's at home painting the room that will become the nursery when the twins arrive."